In this video, I'll be covering the modifications I've made to my Glock 48. Before we get along too far, we're going to unload the pistol and verify that it's empty. Now, part of why I did that is to show the first modification I did. I converted this gun to using the Shield Arms S15 magazines. Now, the OEM magazines are well made and they're 10-round mags, but I wanted to get more capacity to this pistol. A lot of people are kind of contentious about the reliability of these magazines, and truthfully, I went into it without any sort of expectations. What I found is that I had to break the magazines first before they were truly 100% reliable. All you have to do to break these magazines, and at least in my experience, and of course your mileage may vary, just keep them loaded at 15 rounds for a while before you go to shoot the gun. The only malfunctions I had with any sort of consistency were all taking technical handgun with John Johnston of Citizen Defense Research last summer, where I was using a bunch of brand new Gen 2 Shield mags that I had never loaded before, and I had failures to go into battery. Now, we're actually going to take the gun partially apart here so I can show what was happening and why the break-in kind of happened. So when we look at the bottom of the slide here, we can see that some of the finish is worn away and there's some brass casing coloration there. What happens when the gun is shooting is that your magazine's actually impacting a little bit on the bottom of the slide. And what was happening is that the force of the springs not being properly broken in was causing the slide to slow down a little bit, and it wasn't allowing it to go to full extension then chamber the next round in there. So just breaking in the magazines a little bit has kind of alleviated that problem for me. Now, that's my mileage, that's my experience. I'd say if you're on the fence about this, do some more research, but for me, I've got about 14 different Shield magazines, each from different generations, and they're all reliable in the gun. Some, like the older Gen 1 magazines, don't drop free as well, but stuff like the newer Gen 3 magazines with the reinforcement on the back, and these ones are nickel-plated so they drop free even easier, they've been fantastic in my experience. So that was the first thing I did, was to convert this gun using Shield mags. The next thing I did was actually improving the quality of the trigger. So again, we'll verify we're unloaded here. The trigger pull in this gun is very crispy, very consistent, especially for a Glock here, and mine pulls pretty smoothly right at 5.5 pounds. I threw in one of the Ghost edge connectors inside of the ejector housing. I swapped out my firing pin block spring for a lighter weight OEM one, and then I threw in an increased power striker spring. What that did is that it dropped the trigger weight down to about 4.5 pounds, but then the increased striker spring brought it back up to 5.5, but it made it much, much crispier. Now, I'm not a trigger snob, even though I've got some guns with very nice triggers. I found that this is really great. It's better than my Glock 45, it's better than my Gen 217 that I've tinkered with. It's really a great trigger once you've modified it here. Now, obviously I've done more modifications to this pistol. The magazine well is one of the Shield S15 ones. I didn't necessarily do it for the ease of doing speed reloads on the gun. I honestly did it more so because I was having pinky smashing issues with some of my magazines that I noticed at Technical Handgun. After about 300 rounds on the first day, I found that I was chewing up the bottom leading edge of my pinky on the bottom of the frame in the magazines. So I have a second Glock 48 that doesn't have a magazine well yet, and you can see it's actually interacting with the floor plate there. So this was less about speed reloads and more so about making it that I'm not smashing my pinky. I actually had the same issue on the Beretta 92, which is why I used to shave down my base plates on the 92 back in the day. Now, the biggest thing I've done to this gun is the slide work and the slide milling. I had Battle Works out of Connecticut. I had them mill out a cut for an RMRCC and then mill me a new rear sight dovetail in front of the optic. I'll link my article down below on why I prefer this, but the long and the short is that it protects the optic better, both from damage, racking and whatnot, but also just gunk from the ejection port. I also find that it's more intuitive for newer shooters to not have your iron sights block part of the path there of the red dot. For me, I don't really care about if the rear sight is behind the optic or in front of it for usage, but I find that with a lot of newer shooters, this is just easier for them to use. I also had them Cerakote this peanut butter brown. That was because they didn't have black in stock, but I kind of like the look of the two-tone gun. And you can see it's wearing a fair bit, leading edge there, holster wear, and of course shooting. I guess I had some holster contact here near the cylinder number that was causing that, but the gun's been great. Like I said, nearly, I'm at 11,200 rounds, and it's been very, very great to shoot, a lot of fun to shoot, and the modifications I've done to it have made it an even easier gun for me to shoot. Now, I'm not done with modifying it yet. I'm probably going to install one of the CAGWorks raised slide releases at some point. I don't have too much issue with slide override just because it's a lot smaller here for the slide release, but I know I would prefer that. And I'm still trying to get a Langdon SCD for the slimline Glocks, which they're almost always out of stock, and they're kind of pricey for what they are. I had them on the full-size guns. I need to put one on here. It's just a matter of getting one. Now, not really custom work or customizing with the holster, I've been carrying an Filster skeleton here for the entire duration that I've had this gun, which it's been about a year and a half that I've had this pistol. The skeleton's been a great holster. It's not the end-all be-all, it's not perfect, but it's worked really well for me. I do like that there's not as much metal on this holster, specifically the clip, because the metal that's on here is already, not already, but it's been rusting the entire time I've had it because I've been sweating on the holster. It's a holster I wear with the gun at the gym, I wear it in my dress clothing, I wear it in my regular clothing. But the modifications to the gun plus the accessories are kind of one of the things why the Glock 48 is so popular. It's a Glock, so you have that Glock aftermarket, something that everybody tends to go into. So I really dig it. Part of why I recorded this was for my full written review that'll be listed down below once it's live, but this is the gun that I've been testing for quite a while now, and well, I mean, I pulled out a second one. I like it enough that I bought a second-hand one from another person, so now I can have two of them. And it's not going to be staying this color for very long, but, you know, it is what it is. Thanks for watching, and check out more content down below.